Hey guys, it's Mr. Dugal, and today we're going to talk about the 5 M's when studying a data set, and then we're also going to add in our friend, the range. Alright, so we have 34, 17, 16, 15, 21, 23, 17, and 17. First thing when doing all this, just to make our life a little bit easier, actually a lot easier, is to write the numbers in order from least to greatest as we go. We're going to use this for a few things. And as we continue to learn some things that we'll do with data, there's actually a few more terms that involve ordering them from least to greatest. So let's knock out some of our easier definitions at first. We're going to define these as we go too. Minimum. Minimum is our smallest number in a data set. So we're going to just give real quick definitions. Our smallest number in this case is 15. So our minimum is 15. Maximum. Maximum has the letter X, which feels like a big letter because it's at the end of the alphabet. No, that's a silly way to remember it, but it's our largest number in a data set. So in this case, the largest number is 34. We then have range. And range is the difference between the largest and the smallest numbers. So we're going to say difference between max and min. In this case, our maximum is 34, our minimum is 15. The difference is 19. 34 minus 15. Sometimes people will actually, in parentheses with range, put the smallest number through the biggest number. They'll write it like that, 15 through 34 with a range of 19. So I'll just leave that there. Mode. A way to think about mode is it's spelled out M-O-D-E. Mode stands for the most often. I don't really have anything for D and E. I've said before, data ever. So it's a silly way to come up with those last two letters, but it's just the most often data. So it's the data that occurs the most often. If we look at our data set, the number that jumps out to us that occurs the most often is 17. Couple things to make sure that we review with mode is if all the numbers occur once, then there is no mode. So if we got rid of these two 17s for a second, there would be no mode, because all the numbers would have occurred once. If all the numbers occur twice, say there's two 15s, two 16s, two 17s, two 21s, two 23s, and two 34s, then all of them are modes. So we would literally write out our mode as 15, 16, 17, 21, 23, and 34. If we have two that occur tied for the most often, or three that occur tied for the most often, those three numbers are our modes. Finally, we have our median and mean. We'll use these kind of the median. If you think about this, if you're ever driving down the road, especially if you can think about a good place is downtown New Albany there, where there's like the library, and you got like Starbucks over here, and Rusty Bucket over here, and cars kind of drive up this way and out that way. And there's that big grass thing here, and that's where they play music at during the farmers market in the summer. This is called the median. And why this is called the median is because it's right in the middle of everything. This stem medi here actually means middle. So the median is the middle number. Now, the important thing with median is that we have them in order from least to greatest. If you were to just find the middle number of this data set before we had ordered it from least to greatest, it would just be a completely random number. But now that we have a method here where we've ordered them from least to greatest, we can actually cross them out one or two at a time. Make sure that you're crossing out the same on the left side that you are on the right side as you go. I just crossed out 2 from the left and 2 from the right. Do, as I get closer, 1 from the left, 1 from the right. And I actually am left with these two numbers. This is because I have an even amount of numbers in my data set. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers in my data set, which means that I will be left with 2 numbers in the middle. If I had an odd number, then I would just be left with 1. When I have an odd number of numbers, that makes my life of finding the median a little bit easier. But it's not so difficult if I have an even number of numbers. In this case, I would just find the average of 17 and 17, which just means I would add 17 and 17 together and divide by 2. In this case, it's really unnecessary because it's just going to obviously be 17 still. But say I had 16 and 20 as my two numbers I was left with. I would do 16 plus 20 divided by 2, which would be 36 divided by 2, which would be 18. So that's how I would do that if I were left with two numbers that were not the same. Again, if you have an odd number of numbers, it makes my job a little bit easier. Lastly, I have mean, which we just talked about how to find an average. You add up all the numbers. So mean is the average. Students sometimes say mean is mean. It's a lot of work. Mean is mean. So the average, which is add up all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers. So basically I have 8 numbers, so I'm going to divide by 8, whatever my total is. When I add up, I get 31 for these two. I get 51 for these two. And I get 44, 77 for these 3. 77 plus 51 is 128, plus 31 is 159. I'm going to do 159 divided by 8 as my answer, which gives me 19 and 7/8. Now, as we move forward, we're going to talk about if mean and median both kind of find what numbers in the middle of the data set, median literally finding the middle number and mean finding what's approximately the average, why would the numbers be off sometimes? In other words, 19 and 7/8 is a good deal higher than 17. It's not crazy higher, but why? What made it be higher? And we're going to talk about when is one more appropriate to use than others. The reason, just real quickly before we do this more extensively down the road, is because of this 34. 34 is an outlier. It's a number that sticks out, and it's quite a bit bigger than the rest of the numbers that I have, which is going to impact our mean. It's going to make it increase. If I had a low outlier, it would make it decrease. So that's about it. That's our 5 M's in our range. Hopefully this helps set a good foundation for this unit moving forward. Thanks so much for listening.